in this trig unit, we're gonna do some equations that are based on fractions. And so these are equations we haven't seen this particular year, but you have seen them in 8th grade math. When we look at the types of equations you're gonna solve, there's really only 3. And so as we've done a lot throughout the year, we've categorized things to try to make it simple for you. So in a very basic sense, we're gonna have variables on top. So an example would be x over some number, like say 12, is equal to 4. Okay, now what we're gonna do in trig is we're gonna have a trig function, sine, cosine, or tangent here. But just to explain to you guys the basics of the math, what we would do in this case is cross multiply. So we would do 4 times 12, and that's equal to x. And so 48 equals x. So anytime the variable's on top, we're gonna cross multiply. And the variable is gonna be on top when a side length is missing. So when the variable's on top or the bottom, that's when we're trying to find sides. Okay, so that's important. We're also gonna work on finding angles in a second, and that's a little bit different equation. Okay, so again, to summarize, if the variable's on top, we cross multiply. All right, we cross multiply on this thing. Okay, all right, now if the variable's on the bottom, let's do a different one. If x is on the bottom, okay, so if we go back to the math, up there we said we cross multiply, but technically we cross multiply here too. The difference is there's an extra step that we have to do. So I'm gonna show you the algebra and then tell you the shortcut. So when we cross multiply this, right, we would get 120x is equal to 10, okay? 120x is equal to 10. And so what we would do then is to get x by itself, we would divide both sides by 120. And so this would give us a fraction of 10 over 120, okay? So that's the algebra behind it, but I know a lot of students struggle with this type of calculation. So the shortcut that I've come up with is if the variable's on the bottom, these two terms here, the variable and the term not in the fraction, are gonna switch place. And if we look at what happens from here to here, we notice they actually switch place. So that eliminates this step here, if you understand that. So if the variable's on the bottom, we're gonna switch places. And then divide this in the calculator. So in this case, we would get a fraction of 112 and whatever decimal equivalent that would be. Okay, so again, variable on top, we cross multiply. Variable on the bottom, we switch places, and then we divide the fraction. Okay, so that's the shortcut here. So that's important to understand, all right? Now, the variable on the bottom is either gonna be the hypotenuse, or it's gonna be the adjacent side. If it's, so this could be sine or cosine, which we'll talk about later, and then this will be tangent here. Special appearance on the video. Everyone, Miss Mers is here. Come say hello.
Hello. I hope you're all paying close attention to this amazing lesson.
Yeah. So the last thing here is finding a missing angle. And so in this case, we'll have a trig function that we'll have, but say we're doing tangent and the angle given is 50. Or sorry, we don't know what the angle is, sorry. And we have two side lengths. So in tangent, it would be opposite over adjacent. So let's just create two sides, like say 10 over 12. So how do we find the missing angle in this case? What we're gonna do is do the -1 button on the calculator of the fraction. So it could be tangent, sine, or cosine, it doesn't matter. So what we're gonna do then is put this in the calculator, and then whatever that gets you is the answer for the missing angle. So that's a quick summary of the 3 equations that we're gonna have in this particular unit.